Hello, welcome back. We are here again today, starting the Spiritual Seekers class, number 6, studying the Vachanamrut, the words of Sri Swaminarayan from 200 years ago. This is the class for you if you're looking for the path to spiritual unfolding, enlightenment, you could say, just general spiritual growth, and you want a path. You don't want a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit all over the place. You want something structured. And I speak from experience because when I found structure in my own spiritual life, I was able to focus better and grow, and things were just better. I mean, I can't really. Yeah, I mean, they were just better. So this is a walk through the Vachanamrut, and it is starting very simply and getting more and more detailed and advanced. We're early on the path, very early on the path. So we're dealing with sort of the basics, you could say, the basic foundation of spirituality. And today we're starting a new chapter. Before I get into this, I want to say this is probably not going to be a very long episode. I have things I need to do tonight. I mentioned in an earlier episode that I was starting a business. My girlfriend and I are looking for, well, we're looking for things we can't get working for other people. And we put a bid in, well, we did a interview with somebody, and now I have to finish writing the bid tonight to get it out. So I don't have much time, and we're doing this. I'm even skipping my evening marathon training run in order to make sure I get this show in and can get that bid because there's a hurricane coming on Saturday. I just found out. So I won't be able to do this then. And before you ask, I can reveal what the business is. We are opening an office cleaning company. She's been a manager at things. She's done cleaning stuff. I have a background as an accountant, and so I'm going to be doing the paperwork, and she's going to be doing the cleaning, and we are really looking forward to this. Like I said, we had our first potential client this week. It may be a little while before we know, but if it doesn't happen, we're just going to roll on out. So, yeah. Office cleaning. If you are in Portland, Maine, and you'd like to know more about this, just hit me up and I will send you the website that I've done. Anyways, that's behind the scenes. But now, let's go into the text. So, as always, I will read and respond. And this is the first of 3 videos that will cover this chapter. And the chapter is Panchala number 3, and it is entitled in this version, Muni Bhava. That which is instrumental in attaining liberation is known as intelligence. I was going to pause there and say known as, but I have no prize to offer you, so known as intelligence, that which is instrumental in attaining liberation. So, Shriji Maharaja said to the Paramhansas, "Please begin a question and answer session." Thereupon Munibawa asked Brahmanan Swami, "We have attained this satsang fellowship as well as the association of God. All other flaws have been eradicated, and we also have zeal to do satsang. Despite this, why do egotism and jealousy still remain?" Brahmanan Swami then began to supply an answer, but was unable to do so satisfactorily. Thereupon, Shriji Maharaja, Swaminarayan said, "Such a person lacks intelligence." Why? Because one who is intelligent realizes all of his flaws and virtues, as well as the virtues and flaws of others. On the other hand, one who is not intelligent, only acknowledges his own virtues, but fails to realize his drawbacks. Let's pause there. I've mentioned this in other episodes. The key to spiritual growth is recognizing ourselves. How can we be a tool of God if we aren't connected to ourselves first, if we don't know who we are, if we don't have our life together, if we are full of ourselves and our ego is so huge and we're perfect people? How can we be, someone of God? Obviously, we can't be perfect, so that was the implication there. I mentioned in a previous episode on my discussion of what is a cult that there are people who I believe are in cults simply for the comfort of it. They're simply there because they don't want to deal with themselves. They don't want to confess what they've done, and so they stay in the cult to hide from themselves. And I said in the episode, when you're hiding from yourself, you're actually not growing spiritually. So you're no better than anyone who's not in that cult, because they're not growing spiritually, you're really not growing spiritually. You're just lying and say you are. You lack, according to this book, true intelligence. You may have all the flair of a spiritual person. You may have all the right words and you might do 100 things, but you lack intelligence. And intelligence right here is the key. Now, this is one person's opinion. I will vouch for it based on other things I've read, such as Adi Shankara, who talks about intelligence. And we also see this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the use of intelligence to help our spiritual growth. God doesn't want us dumb. That's what world governments want. God wants us full of intelligence. God wants us using our intelligence. God wants us developing our intelligence because God needs us to be in our best place so we can serve God. And He gave us minds. He gave all of us the ability to be smart. No one is stupid. Everyone can be intelligent. Of course, some people are smarter than others and some people learn easier or whatever. But I really believe that we are in a world where we all can be greater than we are, but we spend so much time watching TV, never reading books, never developing our brains, that at some point we forget how, and then we just don't. And we turn ourselves into stupid people. Really, I really think we do. That's a whole other video, though. Anyways, let us keep going with this reading. He feels himself to be eminent as the Sanakadik, and he views other eminent people to be inferior to himself. Does this sound like anyone you know? Do you know anyone who thinks they are absolutely perfect, they can do no wrong, and everyone else is just, in their way, or everyone else should be honored that they get to live in this person's world? I know somebody like that. I know someone who is absolutely perfect in everything, 100% of the time. Well, it's not true, because we all make mistakes, and they happen, and not a big deal sometimes. But if you even slightly hint that this person is not perfect, this woman will rip your head off and make sure everyone around you knows, will literally try to destroy you. And it doesn't matter what you say. Oh, I thank you for pouring the coffee in my cup. You gave a little bit too much. No, that's what you wanted. Oh my God. She's absolutely insane. The irony is she reads a lot of books on politics or stuff and probably considers herself to be really intelligent. But here's the thing. Intelligence is more than just what we know and what we learn and being able to regurgitate information. That is a type of intelligence. But how many people do you know who can regurgitate information like nobody's business, but they have seemingly no spiritual growth, or lack spirituality, or lack an ability to perceive themselves, Or the famous phrase, they can't see the forest through the trees. It's very common. So Swaminarayan says, one who is intelligent, though, realizes his own flaws. He acknowledges the fact that I possess many flaws, then maintaining an intense aversion towards those flaws, he eradicates them. Also, if a sadhu were to speak to him about eradicating those flaws, he would accept that advice as beneficial. As a result, no flaws of egotism, jealousy, etc. would remain in him. I was editing something the other day and I shared it with a friend of mine, and I ended up telling her a story. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to." She literally wrote back to me in this email, "I don't want to offend you, but there's some, maybe the wrong word, some spelling mistakes. Uh, like I wrote O-U-T instead of O-U-R, little things like that." She literally was like, "Oh, I don't want to offend you, and I understand if you don't." And I literally wrote back to her a story that is a true story from when I was in high school, the type of person I am. I had a English teacher, and I was really heavy into the arts in high school. I had a great English teacher, and my writing wasn't really so hot. But I was trying to become a better writer. I wanted to be a great writer, and I was really struggling and working and all that stuff you do when you're young and whatever. And I was very critical of my work. So my English teacher goes, "Well, it needs, there's some things that are good and things that are bad." And he was being really nice, like my friend who didn't want to offend me. And I said to him, I said, "Here's what I want you to do. These 3 pages, I want you to dip them in red ink," because that's what he used to mark the errors with, "and then wipe away where it's good." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Because I figure most of it's not worth it. So we're just going to start over, but maybe there's a few things I can keep." And he goes, "Oh, no, 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 I don't want to do that." And I was like, "No, no, I want you to do that. I want you to rip it apart." And that's actually, I'll confess, why I haven't worked with a lot of editors over my life, because I can't find any that don't want to hurt my feelings. So many editors, "Oh, well, just change a few things." Okay, fine. And when I follow their advice, "Well, it's okay. If you took my approach, we'd completely rewrite it and it'd be awesome." But when you're, whatever. I don't do that. I want to just go in. I want those flaws. I want to know them. I have found through experience, when you face those flaws and you get rid of them, or you fix them, or you're not afraid, as this example story I gave you of my writing, when you're willing to dive in and your ego doesn't give a shit, doesn't care, your self-esteem doesn't really care. When you're willing to do that, you actually go super, super far. It's really interesting. If you don't do that, you're as stunted as anyone else, because we're always growing, we're always changing. Doesn't matter how old you are, life is always putting things in your way, so you're always having to deal with ups and downs and flaws. But when you're willing to tackle them and your ego's out of the room and you have no connection and egotism and jealousy and none of that matters to you, you're just interested in getting rid of that flaw and moving on, things will explode. It'll be scary and people will look at you strange, like my English teacher, but things will explode. This friend of mine who gave me the edits, I ended up changing the few words, and it was interesting because I read what she had read, and I'm looking at this going, she was overly nice, because really it wasn't that good. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I was doing something that the public would see, and I'm like, God, I could make this better, and I ended up rewriting the whole thing. And the changes I did, uh, so much better. I got inspired along the way, and I tweaked a few things, and it was really great. Anyways, I'm someone who's brutal. I once had this play, and I'd written it, and I'd spent a year working on it. It was really short, and I really wanted to make it longer. It was about 18 pages. It was only going to be a one scene, one act play. I went back and I started reading it. It was like, okay. And it was like, okay, now I'm going to rewrite it. And the way I rewrite is I go through every line and rewrite every line. So I rewrote the first page and deleted the rest. It was in my head. I remembered it. I rewrote it, and it was amazing. What I rewrote, which was like 40 pages, and it was just amazing. That's how I work. I'm very brutal, and the outcome, I think, speaks for itself. And I'm not afraid of my ego hurting or anything else. I'm not attached to this stuff. Don't be attached to these things. Break through, make those changes, make those edits in yourself or on other things, and I guarantee the outcome will be well worth the pain and the hurt and all that stuff, which just drags you down, but really, doesn't have to. It's just Maya. It's just Maya. All these ego stuff and whatever that prevents us from growing, yeah, it's just Maya. Okay, let's keep reading. On the other hand, someone may appear to be very intelligent, but if he does not introspect over his own flaws, then his intelligence should be known to be merely worldly. Outwardly, that intelligence appears to be very sharp, but he cannot be called intelligent. Actually, he should be known to be an utter fool, and his intelligence is futile for attaining his own liberation. In comparison, someone else may possess only a little intelligence, but if after realizing his own flaws he attempts to eradicate them, then even his limited intelligence is useful in obtaining liberation. In fact, only he can be called intelligent. On the other hand, a person who never sees his own flaws and perceives only his own virtues should be known as a fool. However, one who acknowledges his own drawbacks should be known to be intelligent. And then Sriji Maharaja asked everybody to sing. I'm going to stop there. And the next part's rather long, and then we will work, and then there'll be a third video, as I said. There is worldly intelligence. There is greater intelligence. One fallacy that we often do is we think we are being spiritual. We think we are coming to know God, whatever, by initiating our worldly intelligence. I've seen this so many times. People who are, decent folks who just really want a connection, they do so by initiating their ability to debate something. Sorry, I know there was a glitch right there. Hopefully, not too many glitches tonight. I have a friend actually. He's always wanting to know God, and he loves religion, and he loves the Catholic Church, but it's all very intellectual to him. He can sit and spout whole quotes by G.K. Chesterton and then discuss how they compare to something C.S. Lewis said in interpreting and whatever. But it's so intellectual. It's so intellectual. It's like climbing Himalayan mountains with no supplies. You're not going to get very far. And if you do, you're probably going to die. It's just you're not going to climb Mount Everest or the mountains or whatever. Yes, you need to have yes, you can have your hands and you can climb up that mountain, but it's more than that. You need the right type of tools. You need the right clothing. And my friend, he just is like, I'm just going to climb up this mountain just using my own brain. But that's not how you reach God. God doesn't say that in any textbook. God doesn't say, if you memorize this book, I will appear to you. No, that's not the message that's given out. Um, if you can transcribe this into the numerology of it and discuss all the dates, I will appear to you. That's not the message of the books. No text that says just read this and that's it. There's more to that. You need to have the proper setup and the proper to climb this mountain. It's more than just going for it. You need the proper things. That's true intelligence. True intelligence is knowing that you need gear and clothing and helpers and whatever to climb Mount Everest. Yeah. So consider that in your spiritual life. When you're trying to gain great heights, what intelligence are you using? Is it spiritual intelligence or is it worldly intelligence? And then what is the outcome that you're seeing? That's it. That's the whole message of today's show. That's it. Just self-introspection. Self-introspection. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. And the next video will be longer and more detailed with a few more topics. But I got things to do. I got to make some money. uh, or try to make some money. See if I can do this and take care of my business because there is a world and you have to deal with it. And if this bid it doesn't work out, my thought. I told this to my girlfriend. I was like, doesn't work out. Doesn't work out. No big deal. That's literally what I said to her. It's like, yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. We're also coming at this with a lot of intelligence and preparation and everything. But I'm not really attached to it. So yeah, I will catch you next week for second part. Well, not the second part of this. I don't know what we'll do next week. I haven't figured it out yet. But we'll talk about something interesting or something will happen in the news. And feel free to write to me. My Facebook is, there's a link down below to that. Or there's a link somewhere. If you're on YouTube, you can find it. Email, whatever. Feel free to connect. Would love to hear from you. And until next time, take care of yourself. Be well in your spirituality. And feel free to share it here to inspire others.